Hey guys, Beast here, and in front of you is a Nemo Frontier 3P tent, and I purchased this from REI earlier in the spring, and I got a pretty good deal on it, but we'll get into that. The reason I'm sort of bringing this to you is sort of my disappointment with REI as my customer experience. Now, I've always enjoyed them for years. They've always been great. They've always taken back things I wasn't happy with. And just to be clear, that they always would give me a refund at any moment on this tent and take it back. But being it's the 3P Frontier from Nemo, on their site, standard price is $430. It's pretty steep. So I typically shop on the outlet quite often when I can. And so this guy popped up on the outlet store for considerably less, and I don't remember the exact numbers. I think it was like $200, almost half. As an overstock is how it was listed, meaning that there's nothing different with the tent or wrong with the tent. They just have too many. They have an overstock of them, is how I understand that nomenclature. So as I said, it was listed as an overstock. Not that there's anything wrong with it. So when I received the tent, it was missing more than a couple features that I saw in the description and in the picture list on REI's website. Now, the overstock item in their outlet was identical, word for word, picture for picture, than their standard website for the regular price. That's how I understood it was an overstock item. I'm going to take you through and kind of show you what you'll see on their website. And initially, I wasn't going to do this video because I was told that they had one left and it was sold, and that was going to be the end of it, and they weren't ever going to carry it again. But let me walk you through here. So on their website, you will see that there is supposed to be a large hooded vent that comes from the very top. Well, instead, what you get is a small sort of zipper vent on the side. It doesn't really flare out as much. It is not a pronounced hood the way the pictures show it, and it doesn't also have it coming from the top, so you still have the ability to capture condensation at the top. The other pictures you'll see is there's a vent on the sides, but in the photos you will see that there's supposed to be a vent in the very back. There should be 3 vents. With a tent like this, it's sort of a hybrid, single wall, double wall. Condensation is a pretty big issue. Unzip you here. You'll see that it is sort of a half floor, the vestibule here, and a large screen, so it's still technically a single wall tent, even though you have some separation of a double wall here at the door. In the description, you will see, and you'll also see a picture of what is supposed to be a light diffusing gear loft, so you can put your headlamp up in there. There is no gear loft storage whatsoever. The only one is this little anemic sort of pretend one here, right at the door, which is kind of a silly spot for it. Again, you'll see side vent over there. You'll see no vent in the back, and a side vent over there. So, it's only a few things, but they're somewhat major, especially when you're considering purchasing a tent and it doesn't have the features that it says it has and that you can see in photograph. So I wanted to make sure I didn't get a dud, and so I went back to REI and explained my situation, and she looked it up and she said, well, she's like, the one we have on the outlet store is a completely different sort of serial number in their database than the one that they have for sale regular price. And she said, well, that means that it's a completely different model. So the one we have for $400 some should have those types of features that you see in the pictures. And so I was a little discouraged, and I was like, well, that's fine, but you guys use the exact same description and pictures in the overstock. I wasn't really totally satisfied with that answer. So I got a manager. He ended up telling her to call REI headquarters and look into it. So she comes back with the answer of, yes, the one we have overstocked is a 2012 model, and the one that's regular price is, completely different with all these new features. It's not close enough to even warrant trading it. The issue I had was, even if this was a dud, they had no more in the overstock So my thing was, well, if I could trade it for the regular priced item, because it should be the exact same item. And they're trying to tell me that it wasn't. It's kind of a silly little nitpick thing, but I knew that wasn't right. The answer that I was being given from REI headquarters through this lady. So I got home, I hopped on their 1-800 number, and sure enough, I happened to get the exact same girl that helped the lady at the REI store. And she was completely sympathetic. The lady I talked to, she understood what I was having issues with. The tent that I received did not have the features that the tent that was advertised did. And the problem, like we discovered earlier, was that there weren't any more overstocks of 2012. And the 2013 models, according to her and everyone in the warehouse there, was completely different. So different that there was no way that they could, trade it, because it was such a different tent that you couldn't just swap over just to make sure that it didn't have the features that I was looking for originally. So I was sort of disappointed. I figured I would just test it out, see if I liked it as is, which we're doing right now, and be on my way. So about a week goes by and I decide, you know what, I'm going to contact Nemo. So I get a hold of Nemo. I get a very nice gentleman. He's new to the company. He wasn't really sure he was going to get back to me. Didn't really hear from him, so I called back after the weekend, got a lovely lady, and talked to her for a while. And one of the reasons that interested me in the Frontier 3P, it is made in the USA. It's made with a little bit heavier materials. There's certain items that I enjoyed, but I also noticed that this tent was not on their website, which means that they're probably not making it anymore. So after talking to her, she basically explained that there was no actual 2013 model, as REI told me. That they had only made one giant run of this tent and discovered that it didn't sell very well and they weren't going to produce it anymore. Because it is USA produced, it is a little bit more expensive than some of their other tents. And what happened originally was, the photos and descriptions that all these websites are using for this tent are going off of their prototype. And, through the fault of somebody, the pictures and the descriptions got sent and nobody realized that what they decided to do was, for cost, is if they didn't do the vent in the back and they didn't do the other vent and all the other, gear lofts with the headlight diffuser lens and all that other stuff, they could save a little bit of money and it wouldn't be quite as expensive as it would be with all those features. It happens all the time to manufacturers. They build a prototype, they realize that the juice isn't worth the squeeze, and so they've got to cut back on a couple things and get to a price level that's going to be competitive in the market. I understand all of that. My only issue was being flat out lied to by REI staff, who specifically said they were looking into it, they were looking at the tent, they had it in their hand, and it was completely different. And then Nemo tells me, no, we only made one ever run of these. So you can kind of see where you just feel like you've just been lied to your face multiple times, or people didn't care enough to actually find out the real answer. I don't fault Nemo for that, other than somebody down the line sent out pictures and descriptions for these companies to use, and they weren't accurate. The other thing is, if you're interested in this tent, a version of it, they have one without all the netting and the floor in there called the Pentalite 4, which is a 4-person sort of shelter, if you will. And I'm not 100% sure. It only comes in their sort of obnoxious bright green colors, which I wasn't interested in. And then they have an insert, so you can get the floor, the half floor, and the mesh that you saw in there as well. If you're interested in something like that, that would be fine, especially that way you could divvy it up for winter camping. Other than the obnoxious green color, I almost would go that route, because I could put in a stove jack and use it for the winter, and then in the summertime throw in the floor and the net. Alright guys, I'm going to stop my rambling. I do apologize for kind of putting up a negative video, but I want to share my experience and or lack of experience with REI, the entire company, it seemed, everyone I talked to with this specific tent. And, again, it could just be the way it was put in their database. I understand that, but when I'm told a guy in the warehouse is looking at it, that's just, don't lie to me. Don't lie to me and tell me that it's, not raining. So, anyway, I haven't decided if I'm going to keep this tent or not, and so I'll probably do a quick overview. So if anyone is interested in this or the Pentalite, you guys can kind of see how it works. Thanks for watching.